Good morning.
So I'm reading this new book called Red Star Over Hollywood, and it's about the the communists in Hollywood and HUAC and all that thing. And I find as I'm reading it, every name that gets mentioned, I think, are they Jewish? I really hope they're not Jewish.
Oh my God. I know. It's a problem.
That's all I want, is just for no one. And you know what I have to say, actually, there were a couple Jews, but there were a lot of non-Jewish people who were involved. So yes.
But I do that. I mean, I watch any movie or TV show I watch, the first thing I do, I mean, it's insane. Like, I wonder if other minorities do this, but like the first thing I do is Google every actor and actress. Are they Jewish? What's their story? Now I'm like, do they like Israel? Do they hate Israel? Like, I can't enjoy anything that someone who hates Israel, like, I'm done. But it's insane. I mean, this is insane. We can't live like this.
What's actually funny about that is early in the book, a couple of the early guys went over to the Soviet Union and then came back, and they started bringing over these ideas. And a couple of people in Hollywood told them, like, you're going to bring anti-Semitism back to the States with this if you keep this up. And yeah, they were. But
we have a guest today, so we should stop talking because we're not that interesting.
For once today. William Mehrvarz. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Mehrvarz, yeah.
Mehrvarz. Okay, awesome. Well, you have a fascinating story, life story, and a very interesting perspective on things. So we wanted to have you on because I think your story. We've talked a lot about conversion on the podcast, but I feel very safe to say that there are very few people with your conversion story. So I first heard about you. So Cassie Akiva is a writer for the Daily Wire, and she's recently converted, and she posted about it on Twitter or X or whatever. And I saw you commented on it, and I just happened to click on your bio and then went to your website and was reading about your background. I was like, wow, this guy's fascinating.
He was stalking you.
Yeah, pretty much cyber stalking.
Yeah,
no, don't call the cops on me.
It's okay. Everything is online.
It's true. It's true.
So where do you want to start? You want to start at the beginning and just sort of talk about?
We can start with Cassie. Cassie and I met 2019, I believe, when she interviewed me. Actually, she was in the process of conversion. I was also in the process of conversion, and she interviewed me for the Daily Wire, and she ran a story with that one, and then we stayed in touch. And then what you are describing about on X was, unfortunately, someone was attacking her Jewish identity and questioning it. And that's when I jumped in and I said, no, converts are welcomed and accepted within the Jewish community. And we are very blessed to be part of this nation. So that's probably how you found me.
On that, isn't there something in the Talmud that's very specifically about if someone converts to Judaism, like it's some sort of a sin to question their Jewish. I
don't know about the sin part, but it is said that when someone converts, it's as if they were born Jewish. That's literally the process of the mikveh, going into the mikveh and then coming out. It's as if you were born anew, and that's how you come out of the womb, and you're given a new name and you're given a new life, and that's it. That said, that doesn't mean that your past didn't exist anymore. No, you can still stay connected to your past as much as you want, but it's as if you were born a Jew. Your status is no different. To answer the other part of your question, it is also said that you shouldn't bring up their past to embarrass them. So it's not that like you shouldn't ask me about my past, but you shouldn't embarrass me or embarrass someone who was converted because, you weren't born Jewish.
Yeah, I mean, I was raised very much to believe that someone who converts, I mean, obviously coming from the Orthodox world, we believe that the conversion, the Orthodox way, the halachic Jewish, the way that it follows Jewish law, once somebody goes through that process, I mean, they're as Jewish as if your entire ancestry line was Jewish, and there's no difference, right? And we were definitely given the idea that bringing it up or making it painful for them is like one of the worst things that you could do to a person. Now, if we always live up to that standard of like making sure that people don't always feel, or ever feel like different in the community, I don't know. But I know, I mean, I grew up in a community with several people who converted in and their kids are, married to everyone in the community, like totally immersed within the community. And you wouldn't even know. Like if you didn't know from before, you wouldn't know now. So like it definitely, I think the more Orthodox you get, the less difference there is, which I think people find interesting and pretty surprising. There's almost no difference between the convert and the members of the community. I hope, at least that's the ideal way that it should be. But okay, but start from the beginning because your story is like, tell us about your childhood.
There was a reason that Cassie Akiva wanted to interview you. So,
exactly.
So start at the beginning.
So I was born and raised in Iran, in Tehran, the capital, and I was born into a Muslim Shia family. My family is very religious, connected to the regime, and I grew up witnessing a lot of hate towards just Israel in general, and I wasn't told that there are like necessarily Jews and Christians. We didn't go into the details of it, but there are Muslims and there are non-Muslims. These are the two categories. So I was always curious about those things until I went to a sleepaway summer camp, and that's where I met someone who was not Muslim. And that person happened to be an Armenian Christian who was reading his Bible, and it was in Farsi because there is a large Armenian population in Iran because of proximity, and they have been integrated into the society. They are Iranian citizens. And I was interested in reading this Bible. It was both the New and Old Testament. And that's when it all started. I was 13 years old.
Wow. So you're bar mitzvah year.
Yes.
So most parents, when they send their kids away to sleepover camp, they're worried about them getting exposed to drugs or sex or something.
Pornography,
or getting physically hurting themselves. But yeah.
I guess your parents should have had a different concern.
Yeah.
I want to ask, can I ask you something about being a Shia Muslim? Because I feel like now that you're Jewish, maybe you can explain it to me in a way that, because you understand where I'm coming from. What practically, like, and I mean, like, I know the theology part of it, but like practically speaking, what's the difference between being a Shia or a Sunni?
So I don't know a whole lot about Sunni theology and that, but the practices of it, the way the Sunnis practice their prayers is different than the way the Shias do. Shias merge a couple of prayers throughout the day. So instead of 5 separate prayer times, they have 3. 2 of them are merged. Like there's one in the morning, and then there's a couple in the afternoon and a couple in the evening. For the Sunnis, they separate those afternoons and evenings into 2 separate ones. So that's one way. Another one is mourning. They don't really, Shias have a very, very big focus on mourning the death of their imams, however you want to translate that word, saints, if you will. Sunnis don't have that. Shias believe in creating big, shiny gold tombs for their saints, again, because of how they value that. Sunnis do not. Sunnis put just the tombstone, and that's a major conflict with Sunnis and Shiites, specifically when it comes to some Shia figures who are buried in Sunni land in Saudi Arabia. And Shias want to conquer that land so that they can build those big shrines. And Sunnis are like, this was just a regular human. There is no high level of status. Yes, maybe they were related to Muhammad, so on and so forth, but there's no high level of status. So we just put a tombstone here.
Oh, interesting.
So those are some practical differences.
Interesting.
It's interesting because sorry, before you jump in, I just want to say one thing about, because this is going to be the weirdest sentence that is going to come out of my mouth, but
let's hear it.
I've been to Yasser Arafat's grave.
Wow. Okay.
I know you weren't expecting me to say
I was
that.
not.
In Ramallah, and it's like this shrine in like marble. It's like a huge marble shrine, which I know is not, based on what you're saying, is different than what Sunnis usually would do. But I think maybe they treated him a little.
Maybe it's a political thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's for sure political, because it's like this. It's really kind of grotesque. But
I knew Chabadniks liked visiting graves. graves. how dedicated you people were.
I might be the only Chabad female and or male, I'm sure, that has been to his grave. But
that's very brave of you to go to that part. Right? It's just great.
We could do another podcast about that. But it's a very strange. I did not feel, it was not a loving feeling at all. But anyway,
shocker.
Yeah.
One last difference I wanted to mention, because you were interested, is the concept of a Messiah. Shias are very big into it. They believe that there is a Messiah. He will come. It's one of the 12 saint that is going. That's to say that 12 are Shia sect, because you have multiple different Shia sects.
Right.
Sunnis don't have that concept.
And that's the Mahdi. Is that right?
Correct. That's the Mahdi.
Yeah.
From Dune, if you will.
From Dune? Oh, is that
Dune has the Mahdi, and he was inspired by Shia Islam, and he wrote the book.
That's so funny.
The fantasy is really funny.
That's so funny.
All right, so you're at sleepaway camp, and this Christian gives you this Old Testament, New Testament book. Why did you start reading it? What attracted you to it once you started reading it? What was your connection to it?
I'm always curious about new things. And if someone withholds something from me, I just become more and more interested in it. I'm like, what's there? Why are you hiding it from me? So that being said, my father never really shared anything with me, and I became very much interested. I was always interested in history, religion, so on and so forth. So that was the catalyst that I was like, oh, I found this new thing that I have always been denied, that I've always been told you should not really touch it, you should not approach it. So I just became interested and just dived deep into it. I'm sure you have a follow-up question, that why Old Testament rather than New Testament. And I think the reason why I became more interested into the Old Testament is because it was a lot more similar to the Quran, or the stories were a little bit more similar to that, as opposed to the New Testament, which is just the storytelling of one single individual just following his life, as opposed to the Quran and the Old Testament, which is have Jonah's story, the story of Noah, Abraham, all of those things. But there were differences that I was shocked to find out, that the Old Testament had these minor differences than the Quran. One of them being the story of the Akedah, of course. That's the most famous one.
Right. The almost sacrifice of Isaac, which Muslims believe it was Ishmael, right?
Correct.
Right. And here you're reading the story with a different main character. So it must have been really jarring. Yeah.
Right. It was odd because I've always been told that the Quran is true and always been true, but I'm reading another text that has the similar story with a different fact. So that started my my questioning of whether or not the Quran is valid.
How well at the age of 13, how well did you know the Quran? Is that something that you study in school? Is it something that you like the way now that you know the Jewish community, is it similar to the way that a Jewish child going to Jewish school would know the Torah, or how are you in that?
It's slightly different, because in Judaism, we have these portions. Every week we'll go through one portion of the Torah until we finish it, and then come back again. Rosh Hashanah, renew everything. At Simchat Torah, and we renew everything.
Right.
But in Islam, you don't have that order necessarily. I didn't go to a necessarily religious school. I went to what I call a public-private school, because all schools are public, funded by the government, and then the private ones are just more expensive and they have extracurricular activities. And that one didn't really have a lot of extracurricular activity related to the Quran. My father sent me to the mosque to do all of that, but we didn't really study the Quran as we do study the Bible, the Torah per se. So that major difference creates a gap in knowledge for the average Muslim in Iran.
Interesting.
So you're at sleepaway camp and you have access to this book, but obviously at some point you've got to go home, right? So what was that like when you went home and had to, your interest had been piqued in this thing that was probably, I assume, as verboten as anything could conceivably be in any society. So what was that like, and what did you do?
So I went back home and was very excited. I wanted to share it with my father that I found and discovered this new thing. But when I did, he was not happy about it. And part of it is because he's religious and he couldn't see that his son has found this new thing and could potentially fall down a deeper rabbit hole. And the other part was that he knew that the consequences of me becoming more and more interested in this are very severe in that society. So he didn't like the idea. And because I was very interested in languages at the time, and I already knew English, he gave me an English version of the Quran. He said, just study this. This might be a better substitute. But I was more interested in the other part. So I went online. Internet at the time wasn't as censored as it is now. So I was able to find many websites to explore this newfound hobby. Let's call it that.
And what year was this around?
This is around, so I am 33. Wow. 20 years ago, 2005.
Wow.
Okay.
So did you just start learning more, learning more about
I started learning more about Judaism, read a lot more about Israel, because the conflict, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which right now is very a hot button topic in the whole world and in the US especially, that was always in the media, at school. Schools began with chants of death to America, death to Israel.
Wow.
And every Friday prayer was also filled with those kinds of hatred and burning of the flags. So I became very interested in that aspect of it. And I went online, read different websites, different forums. I became interested and involved in different conversations, both in favor of Israel and also in conversations that were like criticizing Islam or saying things that like, oh, here the Quran contradicts itself, things like that.
Wow.
So now you go down this road, you're doing more research, you're kind of have now more conflicted thoughts in your mind about both Islam and Judaism and, Iran's relationship with Israel. Actually, before I get to that, let me ask you this question.
Sure.
As a little bit of an aside. So I think I've always read, I think a lot of people have probably read, that the people of Iran are not nearly as hostile towards Israel as the government of Iran is. Is that true in your experience or not really?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, there's no way for us to gauge it, to see how many people actually support the regime, how many people are in favor of relationships with Israel. But from my experience and from what we see online, not just on social media, but also the videos that come out, that students do not step on the Israeli flag because they paint the Israeli flag and American flags at the entrance of universities, and students would avoid it, go around it. Majority of the students, at least in that video. So it is very hard to gauge what the percentage is, but you definitely see that there is a positive tendency towards support for Israel inside the Iranian society among the youth.
Right. And it could be the kind of thing too, where it's sort of maybe not pro, but just sort of more agnostic about it.
Right.
It's like, we would like electricity and water more than
right. Maybe different priorities.
yeah, exactly. Let's fix that first, and then we can worry about bombing the Zionists.
Yeah.
I know. So what's your first big move, like after, all this time of kind of reading and studying and learning? What's your first big jump?
I think I realized early on that I can't stay in Iran and I have to get out in order to be able to gain some more freedom to study more about this topic. So history became my main focus at some point. And by the time I was 16, I was interested in going to Germany to study for my last year of high school and then going to college. Wow. Part of that was because I became interested in history as I studied more about the Holocaust, and I thought Auschwitz was in Germany. I didn't realize that it was in Poland. So I wanted to go visit the camps and see for myself what is it that they are denying, that the regime is denying that such a thing happened. I want to go see it for myself. If you're telling me that the Quran is true, but I find out that it's not, then maybe that part is also some fishy, and maybe I can find something there. I took an exam with this private company that did send students abroad for their last year of high school, and then continued into college in Germany. And I was very positive that I had passed that exam because I knew English and the test was in English. And when I got the notice that I have failed the test and I am not going to be selected to be sent to high school in Germany, I was upset. But then I realized that my father had bribed them so that I could stay, so that they wouldn't let me pass and go. So that became another upsetting point. So my relationship with my parents deteriorated and went down this really, really negative path at that point.
Wow. So what happened next? This is so intriguing.
Well, I was hoping that something positive could happen, but 2008, 2009, that's when Ahmadinejad was elected president for the second term, and us students were just appalled, and there was a lot of turmoil in the country. And we went to protest. I'm sure you've heard of the Green Revolution or the Green Movement. That was what it was dubbed as, because the other candidate, his color was green, and so on and so forth. So his supporters were called the Green Revolution, the Green Movement. We went to the streets, chanted. Chants changed from chants of like, oh, we don't want Ahmadinejad as our president, the election was stolen, so on and so forth, to no, we want to overthrow the regime. We know that like the other candidate is also not going to be any different. It's just the whole system is rigged. We need a revolution. But the crackdown was very brutal, and it was shut down in under a month. And as a 16-year-old, I saw things that I don't think any person, not just a 16-year-old, is supposed to see. I saw people getting shot on the streets, and that really threw me off and made me a lot depressed to live in such a society. And because I couldn't go to Germany, I told my father that I just need to get out of this status quo. I can't stay here. So I picked a point on the map in Iran. That's the most southern point in Iran. That's the furthest I could go without leaving the country. And that was an island called Kish. And that's where I went.
Wow. And what'd you do there? Sorry, I'm cutting you off.
Sorry.
Yeah, you have a question?
So I did have one question. You were talking about your parents. If you don't want to answer that, this is fine. Do you have brothers and sisters?
I do. I'm the oldest of three boys, so I have two younger brothers.
Okay.
One of them is 2 years younger than me. The other one is 15 years younger than me. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh. Okay. All right.
So what'd you do on that island?
That island gave me a lot more freedom and flexibility because my father wasn't necessarily there. He would fly occasionally to visit me, but I had a lot more freedom than I had in Tehran. I started working part-time and then going to school to finish my high school in night school. And then that freedom gave me a lot more gave me the possibility to do a lot more research. And that's when I found Chabad's website. I didn't know it was Chabad. It was Shabbat to me. I didn't know. But I read a lot more on kashrut. I read a lot more about different chagim, different holidays, and so on and so forth. And that's where I really, really was able to learn more about what Judaism means and what Judaism is.
Wow.
So as you're reading this, was there anything in particular that attracted you? So right now you're sort of questioning Islam and is this the right thing? Is what you're being told accurate? But what was the force that pulled you into Judaism? Was there anything or a couple things in particular that attracted you?
Your question is twofold. So the first part is I want to address that at that point, I really knew that Islam was not a valid faith for me. And I knew that these contradictions, I can't live with them. I can't believe in them. The second part is what attracted me most to Judaism. I think what I had in contrast was my Fridays. Fridays growing up, as I mentioned, we would go out to the prayers, and then after the prayer, there was this sermon. The sermon was filled with hate, whatever was happening in the world, death to France, death to England, Israel, US, whatever it is. And then you go out in the street and burn flags, and which is a fire hazard. If you think about it, it's just uncontrolled masses, and this ball of fire goes on like nobody's managing any of that. It's chaos. So that, in contrast with Shabbat, that it's a day of rest. You sit down, you relax, you disconnect from the world. You don't care what happens outside. You sit there with your family, you have a great meal, and then you sing songs. And that was something that I was like very interested in. I was like, I don't want to live my life like this. I want to live my life like that. I want to be peaceful.
Wow. You didn't see the house that I grew up in with 4 brothers fighting all Shabbos. And then I had 4 sons, and all they do all Shabbos is roll around on the, no, but I know exactly what you mean. I say it all the time. I'm so grateful for Shabbos. Like it saves my life, honestly. So I really understand what you mean. But yeah. So then what happened? What was your next move?
My next move was that I need to find the next step. What is it to myself? I couldn't leave the country, and I finished my high school. Now I got accepted to college. I have to move back to Tehran. There's no other choice. So I went online as I was on these forums and arguing with people about Islam, about religion, about Israel, so on and so forth. And I argued with this other person who turned out to be a woman who loved to argue online and then in person as well about religion. We decided to meet in person. At the time, she was living in India. I learned that her father was a diplomat, an Iranian diplomat, on a mission to India. So when they moved back to Tehran, I met her in person, and we kind of both realized that the facade that we had built up online was kind of hiding something behind. For me, it was the fact that I had abandoned Islam and I was very much looking into Judaism. I didn't know at the time that conversion was a possibility. And even if it was, how would it happen in Iran? And for her, she just wasn't interested in being a veiled woman. And inside, she wanted to be secular. And her family was the obstacle to that. And we decided that it would be best if we created a family together and built this bubble so that we could be whoever we wanted to be inside it. And in the outside, we would present it the way the outside world would want us to present. But I think it was very naive to think that way. And we learned it very quickly.
Wow. So did you get married?
We did get married, and that was really great for my family because they thought that their son has finally come back to the religion, and he's going to be the oldest son that they always wanted, to be a Muslim, good Muslim boy. And for her family, because of my father's status in within the regime, and also because he went to the war in the 80s and he lost an arm and a leg. So because of his status, also he was esteemed to their eyes. And to them, it was a great, for lack of a better word, it was great shidduch for them. So it was great for everyone, and we thought it would work. So we got married, and we had a big wedding because I have a big family and she had a big family. And we started living together. But soon we realized that was not all of it. We made big mistakes in creating that.
Wow.
So I have to assume the woman you talked about, your father being esteemed, I have to assume the woman you married, if her father was a diplomat to India, he must have been pretty well respected and committed to the Iranian regime as well.
He was very committed. And I think the word diplomat is not the right word to use, but we don't have anything else in the US, but I don't think he was a diplomat. He was probably working in some other project, and he was missioned in India. But he never told me. He didn't tell anybody else, so we don't know. But he definitely had affinity for the regime, and he was very much connected to the regime ideologically and also within his connections professionally.
So you got married and you're living together, and you said you made mistakes. So what were those things that you, in hindsight, are the mistakes?
Well, getting married, number one.
Well, yeah,
Right.
yes. That number one, yes, for sure. But once you're married,
but we didn't think it through. We didn't think, okay, what's the actual next step? Like, how long can we keep up this facade? Like, what if we have kids? What's going to happen to them? Are we going to move out of the country? When, how, where? And what are we going to do with our families? And what's going to happen outside of the country? So none of these questions were being addressed. And of course, being a Middle Eastern, we were also pressured to have a child. And that was also difficult. We tried. She, for better or for worse, she lost the pregnancy. She had a miscarriage. And that was the last straw that broke the camel's back, at least for her.
Right. Oh, okay. So you end that marriage, right?
Ending that marriage was really the point that pushed me out of the country, because I didn't want to end it like the way we started it. I wanted to have a plan. I wanted to think it through, at least this time. How we came in was not the right idea. So how do we get out the right way? Because we can't just go to our parents and say, "Oh, this didn't work out. We need to divorce." That's not, divorce is frowned upon. So it's not really an easy thing to do, culturally speaking. We knew that we wanted to. It has to happen at some point. We had differences on when we should end this marriage, and for her, after that miscarriage, it was any second. We went to her sister's, we went to her parents' house because we were going to prepare for her sister's wedding. And that night we had a big fight, and her mother had not seen us have fights before. So that was a shock to her. And I never expected my ex to say this, but she just said it out loud, that he's not Muslim. I'm married to him. He's not even Muslim.
Oh,
so
my gosh. That's
why everything fell down on me. And that's when her sister began to realize what I was posting online. I was posting Tehillim and Farsi and things like that about the Torah. And I had Judaica at home because I did go to the Jewish community in Iran and bought some Judaica, like Shabbat candles, a menorah. I had some sidurim, I had a kippah and things like that. So those were not well hidden at some points, and probably they saw it. And that's when they realized that, oh, this is all true. Now we understand what's going on.
Wow.
They locked the door and called my parents. And I knew that if my parents arrive, they're not going to take my side because of the history that I have with them. They're going to realize that they have been betrayed, and they're not going to act nicely. So I knew my only chance is when they arrive, I have to leave. And that's what I did. As soon as my parents arrived in those late night hours, I pushed through the door, went out, got into my car, went back to our apartment, packed up my bags. And at that moment, I realized when I went to the safe to get my belongings, which included some savings and my documents, I realized that her documents were missing. So in hindsight, she wanted to end it one way or the other that night. It happens that we had a fight. So I took the bus. I went to Armenia.
Oh, wait, we lost you.
Oh, we lost you.
You might have hit something.
This is better.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
You went to Armenia. Continue.
I went to Armenia, and then I went to Georgia, the country. I got my U.S. visa, and I flew on Ukrainian Airlines to the U.S.
Oh my God!
How long did that take to get your visa?
3 days.
Oh, that's
surprisingly.
it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Really?
I think so. I had a prior with this woman, with my ex. We were volunteering for an international organization called ISEC, and we had traveled a lot with them to different conferences and so on and so forth. And I traveled once by myself to the US in 2015, 2015, yes, for a conference at the United Nations. And I think that helped me get the second visa easier, and that's why I was able to get out. But I also see it as a sign from Hashem that Hashem wanted me to get out at that time, because had I not gotten the visa in time, and when I landed in the US was November 9th, 2016, and I don't know how political your podcast would get or your audience would get, but that was when Donald Trump became president.
Right.
I was scared. I didn't know what's going to happen. And about a month after I landed in the US, that's when the Muslim ban went into effect. So anyone who had a valid visa from Iran was denied entry.
Oh my gosh.
So
you really see the hand of Hashem, like
I do.
Timing and all of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Now, so when you were I'm sorry, you went to Ukraine?
It was just a layover because it was the Ukrainian Airlines.
Oh,
so I didn't.
Okay.
That's so interesting. All that.
So did you go to the American consulate?
U.S. Embassy in Georgia.
Okay. And did you tell them that your life was at risk, or what did you tell them?
I got a tourist visa. No, when I came to the U.S., I declared asylum. That trip I had in 2015. The reason I came to the U.S. is this. So 2015 trip to the U.S., I couch surfed with a friend. I found someone on couch surfing, and he was interested in hosting me because in my profile it said I'm from Iran and I know Hebrew, Farsi, and English. He's Jewish, so he was interested. It was like, from Iran, Hebrew, like, I need to host this guy.
That's so funny.
So I met him at that time. I didn't tell him my full story. I didn't tell him like exactly what was going on. But when things went south, when I was in Armenia, I contacted him again and I said, can you help me get to Israel? And he said, you can't go to Israel because you don't have a valid conversion. Come to the US, get a valid conversion. And if you wanted to go to Israel, then you can go then.
Oh.
And that's how I ended up in the US. My original plan was to go to Israel.
Wow. And how was your reception here? Did you go to a Jewish community when you got to the US? Like, where did you go?
So that friend took me to a synagogue in Manhattan, and I immediately began a conversion process with them. And I was very welcomed, and they were very welcoming to me, especially because the political time back in 2016 was welcoming of immigrants, specifically from Iran. So I felt very welcome, and I had my conversion process with them, with that conservative synagogue.
Oh, so you did a conservative conversion.
That was my first conversion.
Your first conversion. That's so interesting. Wow.
So this guy, you stayed on his couch.
Yeah.
And so was this your only connection in America at this point?
Correct. He was the only person I knew in the US.
So you call this guy up. Yeah. So you call this guy up and like, so now you actually sort of explained to him what your full situation is.
And he was understanding.
And he was in New York, I take it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's so cool.
And, wow. That's amazing.
And I didn't have any money with me. I had only $200 that I was just spending for food when I was in these different countries, and I was sleeping on couches with friends. This friend who helped me get to the US, he paid for my flight tickets and everything. Wow. I'm indebted to him. We're still friends. We still talk. I still see him. I paid him back, but without his help, I wouldn't be able to get here.
Wow. That's amazing. So if we rewind a little bit back to your time in Iran, had you thought through what your plan would be if you were discovered, and how you would get out of the country and what you would do?
I didn't. I didn't have a disaster recovery plan.
Wow.
I didn't have that because I didn't have the oversight, unfortunately. I'm grateful, as Chayaleh mentioned, that Hashem was there protecting me, even though I made a lot of silly decisions, posting things online, talking to people about my abandoning of Islam, and so on and so forth.
When I was a kid in our school, there were families that had escaped Iran, like in the late 80s, who were running away. And so the Jewish communities around the world, like Jewish Iranians, and they like embraced them and brought them in. We had a lot of families like that in our school. And there was this one boy, I'll never forget, his name was George. And anybody who's listening who grew up with us will remember that George had one of his legs was like I don't know, he was born with a deformity in one of his legs, but they told us that when they were running out of Iran, a camel stepped on him. And that's why his leg was like that. And we believed it. I mean, we fully believed it. I thought that he left Iran walking and a camel stepped on him. And for a year, it wasn't until I was like 20 that I'm like, wait a second. They flew on an airplane out of Tehran. They didn't go on a camel. That's what I believed for a long time. I'm sorry I'm sharing that story, but
that's funny.
Like a core memory that I have.
That's amazing. So you do you get established in the States, and what was I don't even know how to ask this. What did you do to me, going to a place where you don't know essentially anybody? I mean, you knew a random guy, you stayed on his couch for however long, for 3 days, a while, for 3 days. Right. You don't know anybody, you don't have any money, you don't have anything. So what did you do at that point to survive? And what were your next steps?
My friend helped me get a job working as a cashier at a fast food restaurant. And that was my main source of income. And I didn't have a lot of expenses because I was staying with him still. I stayed with him for a couple of months, and then I moved out. And I was in various different homeless shelters. And then the synagogue that I was converting with found out about my situation and connected me with one of their congregants. And then they became my Jewish parents. So I stayed with them. I lived with them for 6 to 9 months, I think. And then I went to college. So I had to work full time to support myself, to pay my debt back to the friend who helped me escape, and to just get by. It was difficult. It was challenging. I was dumped into this new space. I mean, I watched movies and I listened to music, so I was familiar with the language, a little bit the culture, but I had never experienced it. And I remember
where are all the girls in bikinis?
Well, I watched a lot of Marvel movies, and I was like, in New York City, where's the Godzilla? What's happening with these skyscrapers?
So true.
But one of the main challenges I had, at least that first day that I started working, the night before, my friend sat me down and was like, "You're going to work as a cashier. You understand that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I have worked as cashiers in the past in Iran. Like, it's just selling food." And he was like, "Do you know how to count money?" And I said, "Oh, no, I don't." So he sat down and he told me what a penny, what a nickel, what a dime, and everything was, because I didn't know.
That is hilarious. Wow. That's great.
Oh my God.
Now you wouldn't have
That's
to
just
worry.
one challenge. Yeah.
That's so
No, I don't have to worry.
So
but that's just one challenge.
No, that is but you know what? Those little challenges, they build up. I mean, one tiny little thing after another that we take for granted. That's crazy. So I want to hear about your okay, so you did a conservative conversion and eventually you did an Orthodox conversion.
Correct.
So tell us about that journey, like from one to the other.
Sure. After the conservative conversion, I was interviewed by Cassie and the Times of Israel and some other news outlets. So Yeshiva University had learned that somebody like this exists, and I wanted to get a college degree. I was going actually to Columbia University, and I just couldn't afford it because the tuition was very high. And another community member suggested that I look into YU, and I looked into it and met with them, with the administrator, and with Rabbi Rum, who has been very supportive of me. And he said, we can start your conversion process, the Orthodox one, and you can also go to YU and finish your college. So, because it's a dual degree, you have Judaic studies in the morning, and then you have secular studies in the afternoon. So I was like, that's a great match. This is exactly what I need. I need a Jewish education because I've never had one. And this is going to provide me with both the Jewish education and my bachelor's degree. So that's when I started going to YU and started my Orthodox conversion.
Wow, that's fascinating. So, okay, what did you, I have so many questions. Like during the process of conversion, first of all, were you in touch with your family at this point, or you had completely lost touch with them?
No, I completely cut ties with my family for various different reasons. My family, we didn't really discuss a lot about my relationship with my family, but my family was very abusive, both physically, psychologically, and financially. So I knew that I just can't have a relationship with them. At least not until the regime has fallen and we know that such influence or power doesn't exist within their hands.
Right.
So I'm not in touch with them at all.
Okay.
I haven't talked to them in almost 10 years.
Wow. I'm sorry. That can't be easy. Even if they're abusive, they're still a family, and that's hard.
Yeah.
So, the way I see it is that I have a bigger family.
Well,
so I have the Jewish people.
That's true. One of the things that you wrote about that I saw, you talked about the loneliness of conversion. I'm curious if you could touch on that for a minute. Being a place like YU, I'm sure, where everybody, went to, probably most of them went to day schools and had families and went home for the holidays. And is that what you meant by that? Or is there like a deeper feeling of loneliness?
Part of it is that. Part of it's definitely the fact that you don't have anybody who says like, hey, are you coming home for Shabbat? Are you coming home for Rosh Hashanah? Where are you going to be for Pesach? You have to find your own place. And it's not always easy because you don't want to be a burden on people. You don't want to call them up like, hey, I don't have a place to go for the Sedarim. Like, well, can I come over? It's a little bit too much. So that's part of it for sure. But the other part, which was the main point of what I wrote, is the fact that you are going through this entire transformation that is invisible to the outside. It's completely within you. Inside you, your brain is being wired differently. You have to think about, okay, now that I'm going through this, I can no longer work on Saturdays. I can no longer live in certain areas. I have to be close in walking distance to communities. What am I going to do? Couple that with the fact that I don't have any family, and that just exacerbates this loneliness or the feeling of it. And you can't express it to someone who's not in the process.
Right.
That's true.
It's funny. There's a podcaster, Chris Williamson. I don't know if you've ever heard it. He's pretty well known, but so he has this podcast, and he talks about how it's a different story, but I think it kind of relates to what you're talking about, where he was growing up. He was like a club promoter and like a womanizer, and one day he wakes up and he's like, what am I doing? Like, I can't live like this anymore. And he talks about how there was a point where you cut off your ties with the old people who were that life, and you're trying to build this new community, but in that interim space, you have nobody, and you're alone, and you have to try to persevere to build your new life because there's really nobody there to support you because those people who will be your support later on don't exist at that point.
Right.
So true.
Yeah.
I think that's very true in my case as well. And I was fortunate enough to be welcomed by every single community that I visited. Everywhere that I went, I go to Great Neck for Shabbat. I used to go to Great Neck for almost every other week because I needed a place to stay. And also my sponsoring rabbi was a Persian rabbi in Great Neck. And he was the one who was in contact with the Beit Din. He's coming, he's doing this, he's learning, and so on and so forth. So the people in Great Neck, these different families that I stayed with, that I had meals with, they became my cousins. Like to this day, I call them and we go to them, and they love speaking Farsi to my kid. And so you are correct, but they didn't exist at the time that I was going through the process. Right. Only through that process was I able to form those connections.
Let me ask you, this is a personal question. I mean, all of this is personal, but this is a very pointed question because my kids, I have 3 boys who live in New York, and they're all, in yeshiva or working, and I'm not there to host them for Shabbat and for holidays. And it's very painful as a parent when your kid tells you, I don't know where I'm going to eat Friday night. And you probably experienced that. Are you good about inviting people now to your Shabbats that you know don't have a place?
Yeah, we're very good. I'm in touch with my rabbi, and I tell him, Rabbi, if we're hosting, we have 2 seats available. If someone wants to come, we have them.
All have to do that. All of us have to just make that part of our regular practice of making sure that everyone in the community has somewhere to go eat. It's
the concept of the village. Like
exactly.
we live in that village, and that means it's a two-way street.
Right.
If you want to be hosted, you should be able to host people as well.
Right. Okay. Sorry, we got a little tech issue, but basically William was telling us you could finish your conversion at YU, you graduate, and during that time you move in with your not yet in-laws because of COVID. And after 6 months, you get married at the beginning, during COVID, you have a small wedding, and now you are married to an Ashkenazi girl. You have one child, a daughter, you have another baby on the way, a baby boy in 3 weeks. So good luck with that. So that, I think that's where we are. And I was just going to say, I didn't say it before, but you're smart because you could eat rice and beans on Pesach. And that's like that's a good move.
That was the move.
That was the move to make.
Most importantly, he was commenting on how if you can overcome gefilte fish, you can really overcome anything in Judaism.
I was trying to avoid that I was disparaging Persian food, but then he threw gefilte fish in my face. Yeah. So yes, it's true. It's true.
I think Rabbi Soloveitchik once asked me if you have any regrets. I didn't say gefilte fish. I said eating herring.
Yeah.
Which is very insulting to him because he loves herring.
Oh, that's so funny. It's so fun. The food is so different. I mean, it's really it's pretty amazing how different the Ashkenazi and Sephardi food is. It's something. Okay. So I want to talk about Jewish education for a second, because that's our podcast.
Education.
And I'm curious about two things. Number one, where you see opportunities for improvement in the way that we maybe talk about Judaism as a community, what's accessible online, or I don't know, any holes that you think exist. You came into it as an outsider, so you have like a fresh perspective, and we have so many Jews inside of our community who don't ever take advantage or know what's going on or have any idea. So I'm curious if you have thoughts on that, and then we can go in other directions.
Sure. I think in terms of options, we have so many of them. At least in the Orthodox world, we have Torah Times, we have various different websites and apps that you can just join and hop on. And then from there, you can find communities, WhatsApp groups that have 5-minute Torah Times and things like that. So we have a lot of those, I would call them extracurricular activities for that matter. Jewish education, when it comes to institutions, is something that we should be working towards more. In my community, we have a Jewish community school, and that's where all the kids go. The tuition is high, but it's much lower than other places, and the value that you get out of it is amazing. So the gaps that I would see is just the accessibility to those Jewish community schools that they start from an early age and they go up to high school, so that you can give everything that a Jewish kid needs without them having to go to public school for a few years and then come back, or stay in the Jewish education and then have to go to public school at some point. The second one would be the tuition expenses. But outside of those, I think as a community, we have a lot of resources at our disposal, which we talked about already, the concept of village. Education doesn't necessarily have to be like a structured thing. Just a small devout Torah at a Shabbat table could be very informative and have a much deeper influence on an individual than 5 years of just schooling.
Mm-hmm. Highlight. So our third podcast partner and the star of the show is Chayle's father, who's the Chabad rabbi in Long Beach, who we don't invite usually to interviews because he's a rabbi and he's a pulpit rabbi and likes to talk a lot the whole time. Yeah. But he talks a lot about that idea, about how experiences and experiential learning is much more impactful than reading a book or watching a YouTube video or something like that. Yeah,
it's true. What about educating the world? I know that's a big question, but is there anything that we can do as a Jewish community that could help change the views of, let's take the Muslim world, or, I don't know, any part of the world right now where they just have such a horrible understanding of Jews and Judaism. Is there anything we can do about it, or is it just so built into the system that we shouldn't even try?
The ones that are built into the system, we don't even have access to. You're talking, right. I'm assuming you're talking places like, say, Lebanon, say Syria, say Iraq and Iran, places that not only have they shunned most of their Jews out of their countries, but they also have in their curriculum, in their official curriculum, teaching their kids that, teaching their students that Jews control the world, Israel is a genocidal state, and it's the Zionist regime doesn't have the right to exist. So I don't think there is much we can do in those realms. But in the US, there's a lot more that we can do on college campuses. There's a lot more. I think a lot of these organizations, unfortunately, fell to a certain political view that wanted to be inclusive and not hurt people's feelings. So they avoided saying certain words, and then avoiding saying those certain words, thinking that those would save them or spare them at some point. But it didn't, because it won't. So I think being vocal and proud about our Jewish identity is one way to show the world that, like, no, I don't control the weather. I'm just a regular person just like you are. It just happens that I'm Jewish, you're not.
Yeah, I know. We need that on campus for sure.
Absolutely.
There's like some parts of the world. I spent some time at the Hartman Institute, and I remember meeting with someone there who has started like doing a lot of Arabic YouTube videos about Judaism, not political, but like literally just teaching about kosher or about this. And he's getting like, lots and millions of views, I think. And he seems to believe that, maybe doing more Arabic or Farsi, media makes a difference. But like, I thought that pre-October 7th, and now I'm sort of not sure if that's even helpful. But do you think that, like, if you were a kid growing up in Iran and you saw that kind of outreach in Farsi, would that have made a difference to you at all? Or
it's hard to tell. But on that note, I thought about it myself. I thought that maybe I should do something like this in Farsi, as you mentioned, talk about just kashrut. Well, Jews are not weird. These are our laws. This is why we don't mix meat and dairy, or this is what we do. We don't mix meat and dairy, because most of the world don't know what that means. Right. Even some of my colleagues right now, I talk to them, and they don't know, and they're Christian, and they are devout Christians, and they read the Old Testament, but they don't understand kashrut laws or where they come from. But that's just one example. Talking about Judaism in general in Farsi is something that I have thought about making content to reach the Iranian audience, because I think they could see how I found Judaism, not necessarily opening up a path for them, but for them to see, like, oh, so Jews are not the evil things that the government is describing. Right, Jews are just regular people. Look at this guy. He used to be one of me, like me. He was born like me, and now he's not. How does that change things for me? So I think that's good. But my hesitation, aside from not having enough time, is the fact that I don't want to open doors to. Yeah, this is going to sound bad. I don't want to open doors to more and more people stepping forward, specifically from Iran, to say, like, oh, we want to convert to Judaism, because that's not what we do. We don't proselytize. We look for quality, not necessarily quantity. And I don't want to open such a door, for that matter. But yes, you're right. Speaking their language about Judaism and about Jews, and telling them, like, I was born in your country and I'm Jewish. Look how normal I am, is a very good way to reach them.
Interesting. It's an interesting. I hadn't really thought about that before, but it's an interesting perspective of the difference between proselytizing and just educating. Right. It seems like a lot of it sort of might be intent based. And I mean, obviously, if you say, come to my shul and I'll convert you, convert, $25, I'll convert you, whatever. Like that's obviously not it. But it seems like if the intention is just to inform, but that's an interesting distinction.
It goes to show how, like, it goes to show how we cannot win because we don't proselytize, which people should appreciate, right? Like other religions should be like, great, we believe everybody should be whatever religion they want and be a good person. But then people who hate us say, you see, they don't proselytize because they don't think we're equal and they don't think we're good enough to be Jewish.
They're gatekeepers.
Like, what do you want from us? I mean, literally, you cannot win. It's
you can't win.
Unreal. Okay, I have one more question, and then I think we have to start thinking about wrapping up, only because it's Friday and I'm freaking out because I have 60 students coming over tonight. But I know. Do you have any sense of the Jewish community in Tehran today? How they are, what their situation is like after this war with Iran, and can you give us some context to that?
They're caught in a very, very difficult position. They're hard pressed against so many different factors. First of all, they are Iranian. They were born in Persia for generations in the past. They are children of Esther. That's how far back they go. They have roots there. They speak the language. Their culture is there. There's no way for them to just pick up and leave. A lot of them have left already because of persecution and fear that they would be killed or jailed. But the ones that stayed behind are the ones that either couldn't leave, didn't have the means to leave, or just didn't want to leave because of that cultural connection. So you see that duality already developing itself, that they're so profoundly Persian in that sense, that they're rooted there, but at the same time, they're Jews. And as you mentioned, after the war, they're now being accused of being spies and that. So I see them as the hostages in that country. About 10, 15,000 Jews live in Iran, and there's not really an easy way for them to get out, and there's not an easy way for them to live their lives. It's not really recommended to wear a kippah and just walk outside just because of general anti-Semitism, and then you don't want to just make yourself a target. And then there's the fact that the leaders of the Jewish community have to present themselves in a particular way to protect the community. The government comes to them and says, you have to read this script, and they have to go on television and read that script. The government comes and says, gather everyone on the bus, we're going to a protest, and you're all chanting death to Israel, and you're not asking questions, and they have to do it because there's no option. There's no other option. Wow. So it's a very difficult position to be in.
Haile and I have talked about that a lot, about like, especially we've talked about like Chabad in Russia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the fact that it's like, they have, relationships with Putin, and it's like, that's his job.
Correct.
Like his job is not to save the world. His job is to represent the Jewish community in Russia, and pissing off Putin does not help his people. So it's like, you can be sort of idealistic about it and say, no, he should do this and that. It's like you have to put yourself in their shoes and how they have to serve their people to just to survive.
Yeah.
Right. So
it's a matter of survival.
It sounds like a similar circumstance. Yeah. It's very sad.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think that there are Jews in Iran. Like,
it is.
It's actually, like, I forget sometimes because, Iran is maybe Israel's biggest enemy right now, and like the fact that there's a Jewish community there is shocking. And I recently saw some pictures. I mean, and they look like Orthodox Jews. I mean, most, the ones that I see, beards and black hats, and like, they're not, when I think about Persian Jews, I often think about the ones in Beverly Hills that don't look like that. But these guys like are serious, right? The rabbis and the Torah scholars, and like they look like, and they live in middle of Iran. It's just like the weirdest thing to think about.
It is.
And honestly, when I was in Israel during the war, everybody was talking about them. Like the people in Israel were so worried about the Jews in Iran, because it's scary to think about what the repercussions could be for that community. And those are our brothers and sisters.
Yes.
So it's something. It's quite something. Israel has to be careful about that too.
Yeah. One last note on that is that Iranian Jews have lived in Iran continuously. Jews have not lived in any other country continuously since the temple time.
Wow.
Like, Babylon is gone. No Jews live in Iraq. But in Iran, they have continuously for the past 2,500 years have lived there. So
that's crazy.
That's something to think about.
Amazing.
It is something to think about. Yeah.
Before we wrap up, is there anything you want to promote, or you want anything you want people to know about?
There's the shampoo.
You or...
Yeah.
I think one thing I would like to say is, and it may not help with anti-Semitism because, as Haile mentioned, there's no winning. Like, we can't win either way. But one thing we should be very much appreciative of is this great country. The United States of America is the country that right now this is the golden age for Jews outside of Israel. I think one thing we should incorporate into our Jewish education and into our institutions is that element, appreciation for this country, and doesn't have anything to do with like white supremacy or the Civil War or this or that. No, this country, its laws, the foundation of it, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States, they both give us this right to be Jews, to live Jews. So we should be grateful. And that's one way we can show the world that, like, no, we don't have dual loyalties. I mean, at some point, in some sense, we do. At all the protests that we see for the hostages, it's not just Israeli flags. It's American flags as well, because we are proud to be Americans as well. But you don't see that on the other side. There's only one flag in the other protests. And that's
a really good point.
First of all, amen. Like that is absolutely true. And I feel like we could go on for another.
Yeah, you see, I have my flag right there.
I see your flag.
But the thing I'll say about the dual loyalty thing is it's such a canard because everybody on earth has multiple loyalties.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, you live in a country and you want to, if your country is worthy of it, it should have your loyalty, but you also have loyalty to your family and your community and other loyalties that sometimes the government is going to run afoul of.
Right.
And so to just say you blindly have one allegiance to one specific group is ridiculous. Yeah. And the belief that Jews are unique in this dual loyalty because they have multiple allegiances is just a total canard. And it is it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And I'll say one last point also about what I love what you said about the United States, because some days it feels like everyone hates this country and that we live in like the worst country. And I was, like I mentioned before, I was in Israel during the war with Iran, and I was with 40 of my students on a birthright trip, and we were taken out of Israel. We were evacuated on a ship and brought to Cyprus and flown back to the United States. And I said to my students, I'm like, how grateful should you feel right now to be an American citizen? And it was hard for me personally because I feel like my place is in Israel also. Like I feel like I belong in two worlds. Honestly, I'm American and I'm not even Israeli, but just being there feels like a home to me. Yeah, it feels like a home to me. But in that moment, when they were evacuating us from there and the United States government was involved and the embassy was involved and the governor of Florida was involved and, blah, blah. Right. And I just said to my students, like, next time that you're complaining about being an American, remember what we experienced ourselves. Right. That's not a story for someone else. That's like our own story. So we have to point it out a lot more. You're right.
Exactly.
We don't do that.
100%.
Okay, we have to have you back because there's a lot more to talk about.
Absolutely,
yes, for sure, for sure.
Happy
Haile has I think 5,000 people to.
Oh my god! Well, it's
Shabbat
my own fault because I don't prepare normally, and so now it's 11:20 a.m. Shabbos is at 7, and I have not cooked anything really for dinner for 50 people. So
don't act like this is the first time this has happened to you.
I know. Good point. Wow. Good point. You think I'd learn from my past mistakes?
So. I'll take the blame. I wanted this to be on a Friday.
I'm so happy. Thank you so much for coming on, and it's great to learn about you.
Thanks so much, William. We'll definitely have you back.
Yes.
And Sounds good.
Talk soon.
Okay.
Right.
Bye, guys.